So I think it will be great for us to hear directly from them instead of just somebody that's standing up here at the microphone. So, but first, there's a resolution, and I can't stop the wind and make a proclamation against dirt, but I would like to declare with absolute certainty that Lubbock is strong, Lubbock is resilient, we always have been, and we are on the right track to an even brighter future. Y'all ready?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, he's ready. All right, so just because Chief Mitchell is right here to my right, we're going to start off. Let's get right into it, Chief. Let's talk about some things, and I may ask this question of all of you. They don't know the question, so let's see how this goes. Things that you saw in 2022 things that you saw that were exciting, and maybe some things that you're looking forward to in 2023 at the Lubbock Police Department.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor and everyone in the audience. Thank you for joining us today. Last year was a very busy year for the Lubbock Police Department. Our officers responded to over 260,000 total events in 2022. This is up over 9,000 from the year prior to that. One of the key takeaways that I will let our community know is that in responding to those incidents, we remained under 5 minutes response time responding to priority 1 and priority 2 calls for service, our highest priority calls for service last year.
So a little explanation there, because I know there's some language in there not everyone may understand, but explain a little more on what priority 1 versus priority 2 is and how that works.
A priority 1 call for service is the highest emergency call for service there is. That could be a traffic accident with injuries, that could be a disturbance where there's a firearm present, any emergency that requires immediate police response. All
right, so we're not talking about a fender bender here, and some people may have long wait times on those, but you're talking priority 1, we're under 5 minutes. How, and we'll talk a lot about growth here with everyone else, but how have we managed to keep that up, and what do you think are the keys to trying to keep that response time down?
Well, it starts with our police officers, the dedicated men and women of the Lubbock Police Department. They are not only employees of the city, but they're residents. They want to keep this community safe as well. You couple that with our patrol deployment plan and our decentralization that was fully implemented last year with the 3 patrol division stations. This keeps our officers within those neighborhoods. They don't have to come downtown to recover property or anything like that. They stay right there, which reduces their response time.
All right, thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. Let's turn over to our other chief, Chief Fogerson. Same question, a little about what you were maybe highlights in 2022, and some things that you're looking forward to in 2023 as we move into this year.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for having me here today. Appreciate the opportunity. I'll start with some numbers that I think tell part of the story for Lubbock Fire Rescue in 2022. We made around 29,300 calls for emergency service. Now, 70% of those are going to be medical response based. Around 30% are going to be a fire or other type of hazard in the community. In those numbers are around 450 structure fires in a home or business. We're about on the same pace this year. It's about 80 calls a day. Our en route to arrival time during all that for an average is around 3.5 minutes, which I think is a very good indication that the city's done a good job planning emergency coverage for a growing city as the city expands, because as you know, response time is integral to our Class 1 ISO rating. And one of the things that's going to help us maintain that Class 1 ISO rating that we're very excited about is new fire station number 20, which will begin construction this year.
Well, that's good. I want to interject, I'm sorry, but is there a little competition when you say 3.5 minutes and Chief says 5?
I don't use those numbers as long as he doesn't use the 10-to-1 emergency response
all right.
number.
I'm making sure. I'm like, well, 3.5 minutes.
290,000
that's 3.5, and you're 5.
29,000.
All right. Yeah, well, that's right. 260,000. Yeah, that's
right.
Okay. And also, I have another question for you. Do we really have a lot of dumpster fires?
We do.
All right.
We have an amazing amount. Fireplace ashes and barbecue coals. Don't throw them in the dumpster.
What about space heaters?
Space heaters are always a problem.
Okay, I'm just going to throw that out there to my office over here.
Be happy to come by and do it.
We need some training for these space heaters. Everybody at this table over here, space heaters. All right, sorry about that, Chief.
That's-
Sorry,
that's
but you
okay,
mentioned
Mayor.
you mentioned the new you mentioned the new. We never had know how this is going to go. You mentioned a new fire station.
Yes, sir.
Tell the folks where this is going to be and why you think this is important and what this trend shows as we move forward.
Sure. It's fire station number 20. It will be at 142nd in Indiana, right next to Chief Mitchell's South Patrol Division Station. We're going to actually share a fence, so I hope he's a good neighbor. But
As long as you're at 3.5 minutes.
right. And we picked that spot because of the explosive growth. You know, we have Loop 88 coming in, all the development and growth in that area, just to help us get there faster.
When do we start construction, and when will we look to start hiring more folks for those positions?
We will begin construction this summer. It'll take around 365 days. We will do the hiring for that station in January of '24, and they'll report to duty when the station opens.
All right, I'm going to jump over to you just real quick, Mr. Atkinson, kind of get out of order. But one thing that Chief Fogerson mentioned was ISO. Explain, if people don't understand or know what that is, what is ISO and why is it important to the people and the taxpayers?
Glad to do that. ISO, of course, we're with the government, so that is an acronym. Insurance Services Organization. It's a third-party group, and they travel all around the United States, and they evaluate the service that you get, in our case, from Lubbock Fire Rescue or a fire department in another city. We kind of put it into perspective what it means to be an ISO 1. In the entire United States, there are approximately 50,000 fire departments. Of those, 411 have been ranked in ISO 1. 74 in the state of Texas, 411 in the entire country. What that means is every one of us in the room here today, we are protected by a fire department that is in the top 1% of the nation. Yes, it's our fire stations, it's Station 20, it's 3.5 minutes, but they get into greater depth than that. It's our roadway network. It's, are we keeping up with roads? Are we fixing roads? It's your water system. Are we putting water where it needs to be? Is it available as it goes? It's a very extensive evaluation. At the end of the day, it means two things for us. Number one, we're getting the best protection that we can possibly get. Number two, saves on your insurance as well. That is a component of how your property insurance is priced.
That's good. Thank you very much. And anytime someone can have some savings, they're going to like to hear that language. Let's see, who we're going to choose next. Brianna. Economic development. A lot of people in this room are very interested in that. What are some things that are highlights that are going on or things that you're looking forward to as we move into 23 economic development-wise?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for having me today. Yes?
Can everybody hear?
Now, thank you for having me today.
There you go.
It's a really exciting time to talk about economic development in the city of Lubbock, and it's an honor to be here and represent the Business Development Department at the city, but also our friends in the back of the room at Lubbock Economic Development Alliance and Market Lubbock. They do a lot of this work, and I just get to sit up here and take the credit for it today, so appreciate you having me. I think I can speak for them when I say we are the most active as far as interest from companies outside of the state of Texas and outside of the city of Lubbock as we have been in many years. Our prospect list is very large. It's a little bit overwhelming to see the interest in the city of Lubbock. Unless you were living under a rock last year, everybody in this room probably is aware of our Leprino Foods announcement that was made in early 2022. Leprino is a dairy manufacturing company out of Denver, Colorado. They will be producing primarily mozzarella cheese here, of which I'm one of Lubbock's largest consumers. They supply all of our pizza entities here in Lubbock, so we're very excited to have them. The Leprino Foods announcement is the largest announcement we've ever had in the city of Lubbock. They plan to invest over $870 million. They will create over 600 jobs. And this is the kind of announcement you don't get to make very often in the world of an economic developer. So this is really exciting for us, for our city, for our children and their children. So it's a really exciting announcement. If you haven't had a chance, Leprino is under construction right now. Their facility will be located on East 19th Street outside the Loop. There's cranes in the air and concrete walls going up, so if you haven't had a chance to go see it, it's worth driving out there.
Now, I've heard rumor that there's somewhere around 1 million pounds of cheese
That is the rumor.
per day.
Yes, sir.
Per day. So we'll have plenty to consume, that's for sure.
That's right.
But what do you think, we're part of this reason we're seeing all these businesses calling and the interest that we're getting and that John's company's getting, the group is getting weekly. What do you think that is? What are some of the reasons for that?
So the state of Texas continues to lead the rest of the country in economic development announcements. A lot of that gets credited to being a low-tax state. Lubbock specifically has a lower cost of living than what we see in a lot of the other cities across the state, and so that continues to be a positive. We're growing at a sustainable rate, which we can't say about some of our sister communities across the state, but we continue to have lower unemployment rates than the rest of the state. So we have a very healthy and sustainable economy in Lubbock, which is attractive to a lot of businesses.
And a lot of people are moving here. Would you agree?
Yes,
I think
sir.
we're all seeing that. Is there anything we can do to stop people from California from moving in, or is that?
You write the policy.
Okay, sorry.
Sir.
We can't stop the wind either. Well, thank you, Brianna. And we'll come back to you on a few. Let me turn it over to Mike real quick. You've had a busy year too. We're talking about growth in business. We're also seeing growth. The engineering department is barely keeping up sometimes with the growth. Tell us a little bit about some of the past highlights of the last year and what you're looking at going into 23.
Sure, Mayor. Thank you. It's a privilege to be here as well, like the others have said. And, we are a growing city, and so we've been plenty busy, and that's a great problem to have for us. And I'm blessed to work with a fantastic team with the engineering and stormwater compliance and all those groups, the inspectors. We've got a fantastic team that I just have the privilege of being part of. Some of the highlights from this past year, we did another storm drain art project, and so that's where we had local artists actually paint on some of our storm sewer inlets. And just to raise awareness of pollutants that get into our stormwater system, it's not treated. Some other things are some construction projects for roadway. For instance, we've seen 114th Street, 2 segments of that under construction, 1 segment from Slide to Quaker and another from Quaker to Indiana. Those are 2 separate projects that are going on simultaneously. And so those are exciting to see those. As you've talked about the growth and the busyness, we've reviewed over 400 subdivision plans. That includes water, sewer, paving, all of those for some of our engineering staff to keep up with. And again, that's, as we'll talk about, we've seen the growth. We've seen 2,000 new home permits come in this past year, which is crazy busy for us. And it's, again, a fantastic problem to have. Probably one of the more visible projects that we've seen changing the landscape of Lubbock is our new water towers. We call them elevated water tanks, elevated storage tanks. Most people call them water towers. But we've seen
Because they're water towers.
Because they are water towers, yes.
Leave it to the Aggie engineer to come up with something way complicated.
I have to try to complicate it, yes.
It's a water tower, Mike.
It is a water tower, yes. You are correct. But we've got 2 of those that are up and operational. We've got 2 of them that are currently under construction, and we'll have a 5th coming up in another year or 2. So we'll have 5 citywide. That's obviously changed the landscape, and I personally think they look pretty nice.
So a couple of things people may want to know. When do we anticipate 114th will be done, over, so the cones are gone?
So that's a weighted question, of course.
That's why I ask it.
So the segment from Slide to Quaker, the part that's in front of Vintage and the Falls and HEB, that's contracted to be over in November of this year. So we're hoping that the contractor will be a little faster than that, but they're contracted through November. And then the segment from Quaker to Indiana is lagging behind that by a couple of months.
And then going to the water towers, we're putting those up, and that's actually a large investment for us. What's the benefit to us? To the average citizen that just sees them going up, what's the overall benefit to us long term?
Well, I was going to say if you stand behind it during the dust storm, you're blocked by that, but that's not why we built them. Primarily there to stabilize system pressure. Right now, citywide, with your water pressure, when you turn on your faucet, it can vary. We use pumps to do that, and that costs a lot of money for electricity and energy. And so these towers will provide a constant pressure, if you will, throughout the city. And so if we have power outages, system pressure is still maintained. And because of the energy savings, they'll pay for themselves within 5 to 7 years. And so that's pretty amazing. Just with the pumping electricity cost alone, those savings will pay for themselves pretty quickly.
I think everybody likes to hear when we can save money for sure. And I'm going to come back to you just in a minute, and we'll get to some of the street questions and the street and road bond questions. But I'm going to go over to Mr. Atkinson for a minute. I'm sure it's very exciting when you, as a city manager, when you get to begin working with 4 brand new city council members. So thank you for your patience in that. I know that, it's not just working with 4 new people like in a normal setting. I mean, you're talking about 4 new personalities, 4 people come in. And so the city staff, our city secretariat, city attorney, and city manager's office have done a great job in handling and training and helping us. And our 3 senior members have done a great job welcoming us in and helping us along the way too. So I'm really thankful to all of them and to all the staff. But tell me a little bit what were highlights of 2022 besides getting to work with us, and what do you think you're looking forward to in 2023?
Well, I think the only fair answer to that, Mayor, is I'm looking forward to working with all 7 of you. So we'll continue to do that. It's a great year. Election years are always fun and exciting, and really can't thank our 3 returning, I've been told not to call them senior, but returning members.
Sorry.
Thank the 3 returning members, our 4 new ones. A lot of what the city does, sometimes why do we do it? What did you do? What does it make sense? Well, we elect people to represent and to lead us. We bring them in May, and less than 60 days later, I'm going to hand them a stack full of binders that represent $1 billion worth of public expenditures. And they are going to spend literally dozens and dozens and dozens of hours as they work through that. We flip the pages in public, we answer questions in private. Great process, but it's hard to spend $1 billion, Mayor, isn't it?
It is. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and it represents our community's money, and how do we do best? Really, the highlights of that budget process this year. First, the City Council did adopt what is called the no new revenue tax rate, and that's a tax rate that, in effect, is the same tax dollar you had the year before. Not done commonly. In fact, I think the last time in Lubbock may have been in the early 2000s when we had the sales tax swap election, and it lowered our tax rate. So that came through, able to still provide all the services that we need. And as we went through the process, it highlights another really, really good factor going on in Lubbock, and that's the growth of our sales tax. So Lubbock's sales tax revenue, and anybody that's had to suffer through me doing a civic speech has heard this, that's the barometer of our economy. Sales tax moves fast. It moves up, it moves down, but I get to see it 6 weeks after it happens. We see property tax once a year. 37% increase in sales tax in Lubbock, Texas in 5 years. That reflects, yeah, please. That reflects that level of activity and spending and investment that's going on in our community, and we see it everywhere. It allows us to do things like the no new revenue tax rate. Mayor, as we went through the budget this year, we continued to work on the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA funds. So we're making big investments in the community. We've put $10 million of those dollars into public safety. We've got $7 million of those dollars going into quality of life projects. That's helping us fund work on a diversion center on our public health facility, which is now a joint facility with Lubbock County, kind of a back to the past deal to be able to do that. So it's been good. We're fighting off inflation. We're fighting off supply chain in some of the oddest places, it seems, but can't have big diameter PVC pipe this week, and next week I can't have small diameter pipe. So I'm not real sure what they're doing, but we're in a great place. Things that I see going forward, obviously the switch from Lubbock Power and Light, taking all of us that are customers today into retail competition. And I think water. And when we talk about water, Lubbock, we talked about it in the ISO discussion. Lubbock's 100-year water plan, if I was to pretend it was dollars, it's fully funded. And the next step of that will be Lake 7.
And I want to get to that. I want to back up just a couple of sentences there. You mentioned, the transition, and we've had a lot of talk in our community about LP&L and moving forward. When I was younger, you really had two choices. If you lived outside the county, you had South Plains Electric. You might get South Plains Electric Co-op, but it was two choices. Then it was one. What does this look forward to? What does this look like going forward, and what are we going to do to help facilitate that communication once we move completely into the ERCOT system at the end of May?
Yeah, great question, and one that I think all of us are asked constantly. What does it look like if you are a Lubbock Power and Light customer on the day of the switch? You will have the ability, using either brokerages or using a customer-based website, to literally go and select the power provider of your choice. Lubbock Power and Light will still deliver the power. They become the delivery truck. But you're getting to choose that. If you want to do it on an individual home-by-home basis, I may be a commercial property owner that has 10, 50, 100 properties, you get a chance to go out and to get the deal that works the best for you, your time of use, your amount of use, all of that. What do we do about it? This is a big change. A lot of us remember that we had a pole on both sides of the alley. One was Southwestern Public Service, one was Lubbock Power and Light. This is so much more than that. And I've been known to say, and I think LP&L's in the room far enough they can't throw things at me, if you can shop on Amazon, you can shop for your electricity. The websites that are set up to help you do that truly work in that fashion. So you've got opportunity. We've just got to educate. Things that'll happen. We're going to see Lubbock Power and Light coming up with what they're going to call a shopping guide. That'll be on the websites. It's downloadable. The next big step that we're going to see are customer open houses, at least 2 of them that will be held through the summer, and that will include representatives of the companies that want to sell power to you. So you'll have lots of opportunity. We'll continue to beat on social media, purchased media, TV, radio. We're going to put it all out there, but I would encourage you, start looking today. The information is there, and once you dig into it, you're really, I think, going to see the potential benefit for all of us.
Yeah, and we saw Reliant come out early with commercials, with Texas Tech University, and I think that we'll see a lot more of those commercials and advertising. Maybe more opportunities for nonprofits to go after some of these companies for some sponsorships. I've heard that's happening already. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate that. I'm going to jump back to you, Chief Fogerson. With a lot of the wind and a lot of the wind and dirt, but really I joke about that. But one of the important things we've focused on the last few years is just our emergency management. Talk a little bit about and help explain a bit about our Emergency Operations Center and kind of what it takes to get that started, what cues you all to go ahead and open that up, and who's involved with that when we do actually have an emergency.
Absolutely, Mayor. Be happy to. Our Emergency Operations Center is activated anytime there's a large-scale emergency in the city of Lubbock, or it could be for severe weather or a large planned event. And it's a place where we draw in all the department heads from all the city departments to discuss and to plan and respond to whatever the situation is. It really helps us increase efficiencies. It cuts down time between the plan and action. And we bring in our community partners as well. And it's really an efficient response for the city, ensuring that we're utilizing every single resource that the city has to deal with whatever that situation is.
And also, talk a bit about the new tornado warning and siren system. I get a lot of emails about that. I get a lot of emails about a lot of things.
Yes, sir.
People talk about, well, I can't hear it, or I can't hear it while I'm watching Maury Povich in the afternoon, or I don't know that it's going on. I mean, help us understand, since we've got a large audience, what the real intent of that warning system is and how it's supposed to work.
Sure. Well, our outdoor warning system is a web of 45 sirens geographically spaced outdoors in the city of Lubbock to maximize our coverage. They're intended to warn someone who is out of doors when they're away from some other means of notification, such as their weather radio or their television. And they are going to be activated anytime that there's a tornado warning issued in the city of Lubbock by the National Weather Service.
Thanks for that.
Absolutely.
I know that that's an important part when we have not only just tornadoes as we come into severe weather season, but other things. And when we have ice storms like we had with
2 Februaries ago.
Right.
Things that's real important to our city, and it's good for everybody to know we have a very, very strong emergency operations center, and we've got good folks working there.
Thank you.
Chief Mitchell, let me turn back to you. We've heard a lot of talk about growth. You know about our $200 million street and road bond and the expansion of our city. What effect does that growth have on the police department? The negatives and then the future positives.
Well, major growth will always have an impact on public safety and the Lubbock Police Department. However, we've strategically positioned ourselves for the future. With the construction and opening of the 3 patrol division stations last year, again, they became fully functional in 2022. This year, we'll be opening up a new police headquarters just adjacent to Citizens Tower. We're also going to be breaking ground on a new property and evidence and forensic investigations lab. That will be the 5th and last facility in our over $50 million capital improvement project. We also plan to start 3 academy classes this year. That's in an effort to fill our vacancies and become fully staffed throughout the city to provide for that safety and that growth. It's our intent to remain the employer of choice for law enforcement professionals in West Texas with the help of city management, city leadership, and council in pay and benefits. I think that's important. When it comes to crime, when it comes to crime trends, in 2020 and 2021, we saw almost 20% decrease in property crimes. In 2022, however, we have seen an increase in our property crimes, and it's going to take each and every one of us to remain vigilant and help each other to secure our businesses, our homes, and our vehicles. I think it's very important, though, for us to understand that we're going to have to continue to ask, and in some cases demand, that our courts hold our repeat offenders accountable. I've been reminded several times that I'm in West Texas, because I'm a Missourian here. But in West Texas, our community should not be continually victimized by repeat offenders, the people that are professional criminals. We need to put those folks in jail.
That's good. And so that's a big question. That's a lot of the things that I get asked is about our public safety. And you mentioned 3 classes. What have you traditionally had as far as classes for a year? As we move to 3, what's the intent here? Besides pay and increasing pay and benefits, what other things can we do retention-wise?
Well, like I said, we have all these brand new facilities. That's attractive to people, the pay and benefits, and just having the opportunities for people to advance through their careers and having the opportunity to learn different trades while they're part of the police department. You can come on Lubbock Police Department and go into K-9, you can go into investigations, you can go into mounted patrol, you can go on motorcycles. There's so many things you can do. So just like Sean, we try to show everyone that it's just not one career path. There's many careers within the single department.
And I think it's important for people to know that this is a trend as far as people not going into law enforcement. This is a trend nationwide. I mean, we met with DPS a few weeks ago, and they're down 600 troopers across the state. So as people, we can help encourage and foster, and we have a really strong community, would you agree, on supporting our
We do.
our
We
first
have
responders?
Absolutely.
We have a very strong community, and I try to tell people, especially when it comes to women and minorities, people of color, that this has been a great career for me. I've been in for over 30 years. It's helped me provide for my family, and it is a great career, and we have to communicate that to our public.
Yeah, and to our younger generation for sure. Thank you, Chief. Brianna, I'm going to turn it back over to you in the middle. Tell me a little bit about this. May be interesting to the folks out here about our workforce. I get that question a lot. When businesses are looking to come to Lubbock and they're calling John's office and going, "We're looking here," what are some of the things that, besides our growth, what about our workforce that benefits those businesses?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'll start kind of circling back to sustainable growth. Sustainable growth is critical. Not growing so fast that you have people coming in and nothing for them to do, right? Our unemployment rate as of last month was 2.9%, which is significantly lower than the nation for sure, but quite a bit lower than the state as a whole as well. And so it's pretty easy to say that if you want to have a job in this city, you're probably working. That being said, our team at Leda and Market Lubbock added 2,000 new jobs to our community in the last 12 months. And so as jobs are being added, we find that people are coming in to take those jobs, whether that be from our surrounding communities that are either commuting in or moving in to be closer to services, or coming from states like California, much to your chagrin.
No offense to Californians, none at all.
Yeah,
Just
he
it was
said
just
it.
a joke.
But also from New Mexico. We're seeing a lot of people moving in from New Mexico and taking these new jobs, which is exciting. We also provide a quality of life that employees expect. You know, my friend John Osborne in the back of the room likes to say that this workforce of today chooses where they want to live before they have a job or before they even think about looking for a job. And so it's critical that we provide an environment that people want to live in, they want to enjoy doing things in, they want to raise their families in, and, you know, invite friends to come visit. And so, you know, my department specifically, we focus a lot on downtown redevelopment. Our council.
Let me jump in right there. That's my cue, right? Surprise question. She doesn't know. So we've got a lot of college students here, right? And I think Dr. Rice Spearman is here with the Health Science Center. I think our Texas Tech delegation is in Austin for Texas Tech Day. But we have, I think, upward 42,000 students that they'll be looking over the next couple of years, right? Didn't we hear 42,000?
At Tech, combined,
Right.
we're
That's
over
not-
50,000 higher ed students in Lubbock.
Yeah, 50,000. That's not including Lubbock Christian. That's not including South Plains College. That's not including, just that's a lot of kids. That's why the driving is so great in Lubbock. What are we doing to keep them here? Because I've got 4 daughters, and I've got some that are going to be graduating, and I want them to stay here because I want them to have babies, and I want to be a grandpa, and I want them to stay in Lubbock. And what are we doing to help foster that to where kids want to stay and we have jobs for them here in Lubbock?
One of those things is downtown redevelopment. It is really difficult to find a growing city with a growing young workforce that doesn't have a thriving downtown across this nation. And so that is an area where we've been very fortunate that the City Council is very supportive of focusing on. And we've got a lot of exciting things going on in our downtown. It's a mile away from Texas Tech University on the street. That's the entrance to Texas Tech University. And so it cannot be ignored how important our downtown is. Outside of Texas Tech, if you've been downtown either at 7:45 in the morning or 5:05 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday, you've probably noticed about 1,600 additional 18 to 40-year-olds coming in and out of South Plains College. South Plains opened their downtown campus at the beginning of fall of 2022, and it just changes the energy of downtown. It's really exciting to come in on 13th Street and see all of those students that wouldn't otherwise maybe have had a reason to come downtown. And we expect that housing, retail and restaurant activity and all of that will continue to grow as those students spend more time in downtown, need a place to live so they can walk to school, want to find a grocery store to go shop at, somewhere to go for lunch. And so we think that'll be a game changer for downtown. We're also looking at developing a civic park at the former Lubbock Power and Light location. If you've been down Broadway recently, you've probably seen we've just finished our demolition on the future park site and have 2 very active citizen-led community groups that are working on fundraising and oversight of that project. That's another game changer. That's something when we travel to Fort Worth or to Austin, to Houston, that's where you want to take your family, is that community park, that kind of heartbeat of the city. And we're missing that. And so we're looking to bring things like that to downtown Lubbock to keep those students here.
Thank you, Brianna. Jared, I want to just jump over to you real quick. Surprise question. What else besides these things Brianna mentioned, what else besides our workforce retention, what other things make Lubbock so attractive and what we want to do to help foster that attractiveness to businesses and families?
I think first, we're Lubbock, and they should want to be here. But in all seriousness, think about this. Lubbock Mayor is now over 140 square miles in the city limits. We have opportunity here. We have space. We have the resources. We have the human capital. We've got the environment that grows and nurtures that. We've got a council that certainly this year and years before, we've continued to invest, in that quality of life. And we've mentioned several times the prospects that are lining up over at Lubbock Economic Development Alliance. And The thing that strikes me when I look at those just covers from A to Z. A lot of that is not industry that we think we're used to seeing, and I think that's great. It's adding something new, it's new opportunity, new reason to stay, and it keeps going like that.
That's good. Thank you very much. And it is crazy to me when they tell me we had somebody else call about so-and-so business or something else is going on. That's what's been completely surprising to me as a West Texas kid growing up. You know, this is out here in the middle of nowhere. That's not how it is anymore. We're seen in a different light, and that's good for all of us in this room, and it's encouraging. Mike, I haven't forgotten about you. I'm sorry about the water tower comment earlier.
Not a problem.
I'm excited about the road bond. I think that was a big deal for us as a council. A huge voter turnout that approved it, a resounding yes to that, and we've got to continue getting a cadence to make that happen more often and take those things to the voters so we don't get behind again. But tell us, when people vote for something like that, they want to see results, correct? Tell us what they're going to see and what the future looks like.
Sure, and you know, I mentioned the 114th Street projects earlier. Those are not part of the bond project, and we'll also see Upland Avenue from 66th to 82nd get underway construction this year. That's also not part of the bond election. Those were funded separately. But for the bond projects, we have hit the ground running. You know, we had some engineering firms teed up. We now have 6 engineering firms under contract for design for 8 projects. In our year 1 project, we set out before council an aggressive but realistic schedule. And so there's a lot of behind the scenes activity that's going on right now. We're working on design, we're working on right-of-way acquisition so we can actually build these roadways. So there's a lot of activity that's happening behind the scenes that, like you said, we'd love to start construction today. That's just not realistic. We've got to get the designs done. However, with our aggressive schedule, we've got 3 projects that we're planning to have under construction this year. And so that's the target and that's the goal, is 34th Street, 2 of those segments. The Public Works Department and Street Maintenance did the surface of those roadways with their street maintenance funds earlier this last year. And so this year we're doing some behind the curb improvements, sidewalks, driveways, lighting, those sorts of things. So that's going to be under construction this year. Also a big one is 98th Street from Upland to Alcove. That's currently a dirt road. We've got a major subdivision. We've got a school in the vicinity of that. That's going to be under construction this year as well. And so that will be a fantastic addition to get that going. And then another one is residential rebuild projects that we've got Dunbar, Manhattan Heights neighborhood targeted for that. And the Public Works group is going to be starting construction on those, doing some of the small work, the concrete work that's necessary to improve those roadways. And really going forward, we're going to see, once we get these designs that start coming to fruition and seeing the completed design package, we'll be able to get contractors on board to start building these. And we'll see about 2 to 4 construction projects rolling out every year for the next 5 years on this bond package to get these done in a sequential way. Time's up, apparently.
That's what they said. I mean, that's it. No, thanks, Mike. And I know people are just really excited about seeing those, because when you start seeing construction, that means you're growing as a city. But I've got a couple more things I want to run by you all before we let you go back to work. But first, I didn't put them under oath because I wasn't going to cross-examine them, kind of. I think they were nervous. I had Judge Freitag here and Judge Parrish here in case we needed them. But let's give them a round of applause. What a great job they did. And before we leave, let's see, is this? Yeah. Before we leave, I want to let everyone know that it is truly one of my greatest honors to be able to serve as your mayor. These past 9 months have been a blur. Sometimes you just don't know where you're coming and going. You're just doing the best you can, and people ask me all the time how it's going. I say, well, there's not really a balance sheet at the end of every month where you can look and say, okay, we had a really good month or a bad month. You just try to do the very best you can, and you work with the people, and we have such a great staff. And so it is really my honor. And I get reminded every day of what makes Lubbock so special, and that's the people. That's the people, the resiliency, the people that work and play here, and it's just the best place on earth to me, and it's where I've chosen to raise my family, and I'm so excited to hear about the growth. I hope you're excited to hear about all that's going on in our city with me. And with that, I will let you go about your day.
thank you again for being here. And again, we're strong in Lubbock, Texas. Thank you very much.